You've seen the girls on Instagram. Gucci bags, yacht selfies, Dubai views, but you've never heard the real cost behind those trips. This is just not any story. It is a story deep with morals and lessons. Let's begin, shall we? They called her Amarachi on the streets of Adja, but online she was known as Amara Lux. Scrolling through her phone at a roadside suya joint, she stared blankly at Instagram stories. Girls sipping champagne on yachts in Dubai, flaunting Birkin bags, flashing perfect white teeth in front of Bugattis. Amara's reflection on her cracked phone screen didn't match the lifestyle she longed for. Her dreams felt like dust under the heels of the same girls she secretly envied. She wanted more than just lace-front wigs and borrowed clothes. She wanted to belong. When her friend Tonia strolled in wearing a velvety orange jumpsuit and clutching a glittering gold purse, Amarachi's breath caught in her throat. Tonia was the embodiment of soft life. She ordered pineapple juice like she was on a yacht, not a plastic stool in Lagos. Tonia leaned in close and spoke softly about a Dubai run, all expenses paid. One weekend. Life would never be the same. Amarachi's heart pounded. She knew it was wrong. But being broke felt worse than any risk, and Tonia looked too happy to regret anything. Amarachi spent the entire night tossing in bed. The idea of Dubai danced through her thoughts like a forbidden song. Her mosquito net hung loosely above her mattress, swaying slightly with the night breeze, but all she could think about was the chance to finally live the life she'd only double-tapped from a distance. Her room was filled with cracked walls, the faint buzz of a dying fan, and the soft moan of her neighbour's generator. She grabbed her pillow tighter, imagining herself wearing designer heels in Dubai malls instead of flip-flops on Adja sand. The next morning, Tonya sent her a voice note and a picture of a flight booking. Her name was on it. Her heart slammed into her chest. This wasn't just gist anymore, it was happening. Amarachi's hands trembled as she showed the ticket to her younger sister, who raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Amarachi didn't even try to explain. There were no more questions. She quickly packed the best clothes she had, 3 outfits, 2 wigs and a borrowed pair of heels. With her mother away in the village, there was no goodbye, just a silent prayer and one final glance at the life she was leaving behind. The airport smelled like luxury and sweat. Amarachi had never stepped foot in Murtala Muhammad International before. Her knockoff Louis Vuitton bag bumped against her hip as she walked past rows of travellers in designer tracksuits, airport security, and men in suits who didn't even glance at her. Tonya was already waiting at the gate, wrapped in a soft beige 2-piece outfit, holding a coffee like she was in London. Amarachi tried to copy her poise, but her nerves betrayed her with every shaky step. This was her first time leaving Nigeria, and nothing felt real. On the plane, Amarachi sat by the window, heart pounding as Lagos faded below the clouds. Tonya leaned across the aisle with a smirk and whispered that once they landed, she would finally understand why girls do anything to stay in Dubai. Amarachi smiled, but inside a quiet fear was brewing. What exactly was she walking into? She looked out the window and imagined her future self. Wealthy, unbothered, admired, but somewhere deep inside her, something whispered that every wish comes with a price, and hers was already in the air. Dubai shimmered like a city made of dreams. The airport felt like a palace, white marble floors, gold-scented ceilings, and air that smelled like money. As Amarachi stepped out with Tonya, the desert heat hit her, but it was the waiting black Mercedes-Benz with tinted windows that truly took her breath away. A well-dressed chauffeur opened the door with a small bow. Amarachi slipped inside and stared wide-eyed at the leather seats and silent air conditioning. This wasn't just a trip. It was a new world. The hotel was beyond anything Amarachi had ever seen. Gold pillars, crystal chandeliers, and a penthouse suite that smelled like vanilla and money. The bed felt like clouds. There were designer gift bags already laid out, Chanel, Gucci, Fendi. Amarachi gasped as she opened each one. New clothes, new makeup, everything her heart had ever desired. Tonya smiled knowingly. Tonight, she said, there would be a dinner party. That's when things would begin. Amarachi nodded slowly. unsure whether to feel excited or terrified. Her hands ran over a silk dress, but deep down her stomach twisted. The room buzzed with laughter, expensive wine and perfume thick enough to choke. Amarachi stood beside Tonia in a low-cut red gown she'd found inside one of the Chanel bags. Men in tailored suits surrounded them, older, grinning, speaking in thick accents. Some barely looked at their faces. The dining table was too long and the food too untouched. Every girl there looked stunning, but Amarachi could sense something unspoken behind their smiles. It wasn't a party, it was a transaction dressed in gold. As the night deepened, the girls were slowly escorted one by one to private rooms. Tonia gave Amarachi a look, not quite reassurance, not quite warning. Then her name was called. Amarachi's legs felt weak. She followed a silent man down a hallway of mirrored walls and golden carpets. The door he opened led into a room with too many cameras, too many eyes, and something else. Something she couldn't name yet, but it made her soul scream. This was the real Dubai, and there would be no turning back. The room was cold despite the desert heat outside. Amarachi stepped in, her heels clicking against the marble floor. There were no greetings, no small talk. Just men, 3 of them, seated with their legs crossed, watching her like a product they had ordered online. In the corner, a man adjusted a camera, another gave her a robe and pointed without speaking. She stood frozen for a second, unable to process the scene. Then the door shut behind her. Silence screamed louder than any sound. Amarachi didn't remember most of it. Her mind went blank at some point, like a self-defense mechanism. But certain images stuck. The smell. The sweat. The commands barked at her like she was less than human. And then the worst part, the animal. She couldn't move when they brought it in, couldn't scream. She just shut her eyes and begged her soul not to feel. Her body was there, but her spirit had fled long before. Amarachi woke up in a silk robe on the cold floor. Her head throbbed, her body ached, and a dull burning sensation sat deep in her lower abdomen. The room was empty now, cleared of cameras, voices, and the stench of what happened. A small envelope lay beside her, thick with money. It looked like a gift but felt like an insult. Her trembling hand reached for it. The cash felt heavier than iron. She sat there for a long time, unable to cry. Her tears were locked somewhere deep, far from reach. She staggered to her feet and looked in the mirror. Her makeup had smudged, her eyes were bloodshot. She tried to adjust the robe and stand tall, but her reflection looked like someone else. She didn't feel human. She didn't feel like Amarachi anymore. She had chased a life she didn't understand and walked straight into a nightmare. There was no applause, no celebration, just silence, and a sharp cramp that made her grip the wall as she limped out of the room. Back in the suite, Amarachi tried to rest. Tonia was already dressed in a silk robe, sipping orange juice by the window as if last night never happened. Amarachi said nothing. She simply lay on the edge of the bed, trying to convince herself that it was over, that she had done what needed to be done. But her body disagreed. A strange heat rippled under her skin. Her stomach twisted, her legs felt numb. She blamed exhaustion, but deep down, fear was quietly forming roots. Later that evening, Amarachi locked herself in the bathroom and peeled off her robe. What she saw in the mirror made her stomach turn. Angry red rashes trailed down her thighs. Her skin was inflamed in places that shouldn't be. A strange swelling pulsed beneath her lower abdomen. She touched it and winced. Panic flooded her chest. She turned on the shower and stood under it, trying to scrub away the memory, the pain, the filth, but the water only made it worse. Her body was no longer her own. Amarachi stayed curled up in bed, barely moving. Tonia noticed, but didn't push. Instead, she handed her pills without explanation, white, unmarked capsules, and said she'd be fine in a day or 2. Amarachi took them without asking. Her mouth was too dry to speak, her lips cracked, her body burned. Every few hours she slipped in and out of sleep, but the dreams were worse than reality. Flashbacks of the room, the animal, the men's voices, it all came crashing back every time she closed her eyes. By the second night, the rash had spread. Her abdomen was hot to the touch, and the swelling had hardened. Tonya called a doctor, a tall man in a tight black shirt who said little and checked even less. He asked no questions, gave no diagnosis, just handed Amarachi an injection and told her to rest. When he left, Tonya turned off the lights and whispered that everything would be fine. But Amarachi knew this wasn't normal. Something inside her was wrong. Very wrong. 2 days later, the pain became unbearable. Amarachi couldn't walk straight. Her vision blurred every time she stood. The swelling in her abdomen had grown firm and hot. Her breath came in short, panicked bursts. She begged Tonya to take her to a proper hospital. Tonya's smile faltered for the first time. Her voice lowered as she explained that not all hospitals in Dubai kept secrets. She knew a clinic where no questions were asked. That's where they took the others when things went wrong. Amarachi's heart sank. She wasn't the first. The clinic was in a quiet part of the city, hidden behind tinted glass and silence. A cold female doctor ran a series of private scans. Amarachi lay still on the table, shivering under the white lights. When the doctor returned, her expression was unreadable. She spoke in a flat tone, almost mechanical. Amarachi had contracted a rare bacterial infection, likely zoonotic. The woman didn't elaborate. She simply prescribed a strong round of antibiotics and warned that if symptoms worsened, organ damage was possible. Amarachi blinked back tears. Her shame had turned into sickness, her desire into a slow poison. Back at the hotel, Amarachi stood in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at the stranger looking back at her. Her once glowing skin was pale and uneven. The bags under her eyes had darkened. The antibiotics made her weak and dizzy. Her stomach was constantly cramping, and the swelling hadn't gone down. She peeled off her robe and saw the new bruising near her hips. No amount of skincare could cover what was growing beneath her skin. Her body was fighting something she didn't understand, and her mind was barely holding on. Tonya returned from shopping, holding new dresses and perfumes like it was just another day. When she saw Amarachi sitting silently on the floor, she paused for only a moment before tossing the bags onto the bed. She told her to get dressed. They had another dinner. Amarachi said nothing. She just stared ahead, mind detached from the room, her body a prison. The life she once envied now felt like a slow, glitter-covered death, and the mirror didn't lie. It showed her exactly what she had become. Amarachi waited until the lights went out and the silence of the suite settled like dust. Her body screamed with every step, but she forced herself to pack the few things she still cared about: her passport, her phone, and a small bundle of cash. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew she couldn't stay, not in that room, not near those people. Every hour she spent there felt like another nail in her coffin. Her pride was long gone. Now, she just wanted to survive. She slipped out through the back of the hotel, her robe hidden beneath a large hoodie Tonya had left behind. She stumbled into the street, barely keeping herself upright, hailing a taxi with trembling hands. The driver barely looked at her, just nodded and started driving. Amarachi didn't even know where to go. She asked for the nearest embassy, but it was closed, so she asked for a pharmacy. As the lights of Dubai blurred past her window, tears streamed down her face, not because of shame, but because she finally realized she wasn't in control anymore. Her body, her health, her freedom, everything was falling apart. The pharmacy was clean and quiet, a sharp contrast to the chaos inside Amarachi's body. She sat on a plastic chair, holding a paper bag of medication she didn't recognize, unable to read the Arabic labels. Her head throbbed with fever, and the nausea made it difficult to breathe. The pharmacist, a young man with tired eyes, offered a bottle of water and asked if she needed help, but Amarachi just shook her head and walked out. She had no idea what to say, no idea what to do next. Outside, the Dubai air was dry and heavy. Amarachi sat on a bench in front of a closed cafe, the city moving around her like she was invisible. Her phone buzzed. 10 missed calls from Tonya. A voice note followed, cold and short. "Don't cause drama, don't be stupid." Amarachi didn't reply. She opened her banking app and saw less than $200 left. Flights back to Nigeria were triple that. Her chest tightened. She wasn't just sick. She was stranded, and worse, she had no one to call. Amarachi stared at her phone, fingers trembling as she scrolled through her contacts. Every name felt like a door she wasn't sure would open. Friends back home saw her as a big girl now, someone who made it, someone living a soft life. How could she call and admit that she was sick, stranded, and broke? Her pride fought her, but her body had no strength left to argue. She finally tapped on her younger sister's number. The line rang twice, then connected. But instead of warmth, she heard silence. Then confusion. Then the slow click of the call ending without a word. She tried again. This time a voice. Sharp, cold, male. Her uncle. He said her mother didn't want to speak to her, that they knew what she'd done, that a video was already going around. Amarachi's heart sank. Her voice cracked as she tried to explain, but the man was gone before she could finish a sentence. Her fingers hovered over her phone, the screen smudged with tears. She had flown across the world to build a life worth envying. Now she sat alone on a concrete bench, phone in one hand, antibiotics in the other, unwanted by everyone she once called home. It started with a ping, then another, then hundreds. Amarachi's phone lit up like a Christmas tree with missed calls, DMs, and WhatsApp messages. At first, she didn't want to look. She thought maybe someone had finally sent help, but when she opened her messages, her heart fell into her stomach. A video, blurry, low quality, but unmistakable. Her. The room. The animal, her body shaking, her face frozen in someone had recorded everything, and now the world had it. By nightfall she was trending, not for her business, not for her beauty, but for the most degrading moment of her life. Twitter threads, Instagram reposts, Telegram channels, even blogs from Nigeria picked it up. Big girl from Lagos caught in Dubai filth. Amarachi sat in the corner of a hostel bathroom, phone in hand, knees pulled to her chest, while the rest of the world laughed at her pain. Every comment cut deeper than a knife. She tried to defend herself, but her voice drowned in a sea of laughing emojis and cruel hashtags. She wasn't just sick anymore. She was finished. The calls stopped. The DMs dried up. Not because people forgot, but because they had already judged her. Amarachi's business page was gone, reported and deleted. Brands she once begged to notice her posted cryptic tweets about morals and dignity. Influencers she called friends unfollowed her publicly. She sent voice notes to a few of them asking for help, for just one person to speak up for her. No reply. Just grey ticks. Her account was a ghost town now, but her name still trended, for all the wrong reasons. Back in Lagos, her mother refused to answer the phone. Her younger sister had deleted every photo they once took together. The shame spread like wildfire. Even neighbours whispered her name. Amarachi watched videos of people debating her life like she was a scandal, not a person. One influencer even mocked her on TikTok, doing a skit with a stuffed toy dog and a fake accent. Her laughter echoed through Amarachi's head long after the video ended. Cancel culture wasn't just online. It followed you into your soul. And Amara Lux, was officially done. Amarachi turned off her phone for the first time in weeks. The silence felt strange at first, like the pause before a scream. Then it began to soothe her. She sold the last of her clothes, one designer bag for a fraction of its worth, and bought a one-way ticket back to Lagos using a travel agent who asked no questions. The airport was a blur. No selfies, no stories, no airport fashion. Just a girl in a plain hoodie and dark shades trying not to exist. Back in Lagos, she didn't return to Ajah. She couldn't face the eyes, the stares, the whispers. Instead, she rented a tiny room in Yaba, far from everyone who once knew her. She found work at a local hair salon, washing wigs and sweeping floors. No one recognized her at first. She looked thinner, paler. Her glow was gone. But she preferred it that way. The world had already taken enough of her. Now all she wanted was to be forgotten. The salon buzzed with weekend energy. Music played low from a Bluetooth speaker while girls chatted under hairdryers, scrolling through their phones. Amarachi swept the floor quietly, her face lowered. Then she heard one of them say it, the name, Dubai, followed by giggles. A teenage girl getting her wig installed whispered to her friend that she'd just been invited on a coded trip. Amarachi froze. She looked up, catching the girl's reflection in the mirror. Excited, unaware and full of dreams, she looked exactly like she did a year ago. Later, during break, the same girl asked Amarachi where she got her Chanel bag, the only designer item she hadn't sold. Amarachi smiled faintly and said it was a gift. The girl pressed, wanting more, how she made it to Dubai, what she had to do. Amarachi stayed quiet, but her silence said more than words ever could. When the girl walked away, Amarachi stared at her hands, scarred, faded, and trembling. She had lived the dream, and it had broken her. That night, Amarachi sat by her window, staring at the lights flickering across Yaba. The girl's voice echoed in her head, so eager, so naive. Amarachi knew she had two options: stay quiet and let the cycle continue, or speak and risk reopening her wounds. Her fingers hovered over her old Instagram login. The app had been untouched for months. Her page still existed, bare, frozen in time. The last post was from Dubai, thousands of likes, none of them knew what came after. She recorded a voice note, then deleted it, then tried again. Her voice cracked as she spoke, not just from emotion but from the weight of remembering. She didn't share details, just the truth. That some luxury comes at a price your body can never pay, that some opportunities are traps dressed as blessings, that the internet only shows the glow, never the damage. She didn't send it, not yet, but it sat in her phone like a ticking time bomb, proof that she was still here, still human, still fighting for a version of herself she hadn't given up on. Days passed. Amarachi focused on work, blending into the rhythm of ordinary life. But one afternoon, while organizing bundles in the salon's back room, her phone vibrated. It was an unfamiliar number. The message was short. "I saw what they did to you. I'm sorry. I need help." Her heart skipped. The sender was another girl, young, scared, already in Dubai. She had found Amarachi through an anonymous Telegram group where the video had once gone viral. Now she was facing the same horrors and begging for a way out. Amarachi's fingers trembled as she replied. The conversation was slow, painful. The girl shared details Amarachi recognized too well. Same men, same promises, same fear. Amarachi felt like she was staring into a mirror from the past. The helplessness returned. But this time, she wasn't the one trapped. Amarachi reached out to an NGO that helped trafficked women. She offered to be anonymous, just a voice, a connector. The girl was rescued days later, and in that moment Amarachi realized something. Maybe her story wasn't just a scar, maybe it was a warning, a weapon, a way to save others from walking the same path. Amarachi started spending her evenings volunteering with the NGO. Not in public, not with her face out there, just behind the scenes, answering DMs, reviewing messages, and helping verify leads about girls in trouble. She learnt to spot the signs quickly: flashy trips, coded captions, sudden disappearances. Every story broke her a little. But helping them made her feel human again. For the first time in a long while, she was doing something not for survival, but for someone else's freedom. At the salon, she was still just Amarachi, the quiet one with sad eyes and perfect braids. But in the digital world, she became something else. A lifeline, a whisper in the dark. Some of the rescued girls messaged her after, grateful, still healing, but alive. Every message stitched something broken inside her. She still hadn't told her family where she was, still hadn't posted anything on her old page, but she was building a new identity. One not based on filters and fantasy, but on truth, courage, and quiet redemption. A podcast episode went viral one evening. 2 influencers debating the trend of Nigerian girls flying to Dubai for runs. One of them laughed and casually mentioned Amarachi's name, called her the blueprint. said she disappeared after the scandal, probably still hiding somewhere in shame. Amarachi froze, listening to every word like a slap to the face. The internet hadn't forgotten her, and now they were using her pain for content. The comments were cruel, but something inside her refused to break this time. The NGO founder reached out. "We think it's time," she said gently. "You don't have to show your face, just your voice, your truth." Amarachi sat in silence for a long time. She thought about the girl she used to be, the one obsessed with filters and fame. She thought about the sickness, the flight, the flaw in that Dubai suite. And then she thought about the girls she had helped. Maybe they needed to know that healing was possible, even from the worst kind of fall. She nodded slowly. It was time. The podcast episode dropped quietly. No sensationalism, no dramatic music, just Amarachi's voice, steady and soft, narrating her journey. She didn't mention names. She didn't cry. She just told the truth. How a girl chasing soft life flew into a nightmare. How the glamour hid something no one warned her about. How she got sick, got stranded, and got broken. And how, piece by piece, she found the will to keep living, not through fame, not through money, but by helping others stay out of the trap she once fell into. The response was immediate. Comments poured in, girls thanking her for her bravery, mothers admitting they'd never known the risks, survivors coming forward with their own silent stories. Even some influencers who once mocked her went quiet. Her story wasn't a scandal anymore, it was a mirror, forcing people to look deeper at what they applauded and envied. Amarachi didn't check the numbers. She didn't need to trend, she just needed to be heard. And for once, she wasn't afraid to be seen. Months passed. Amarachi continued working at the salon during the day and volunteering at night. But things were different now. Clients recognized her voice. Some asked softly if she was that girl from the podcast. She always smiled and nodded once, never confirming, never denying. Her past wasn't a secret anymore, but it wasn't her shame either. She turned it into something useful, something that saved lives. And in that, she found a kind of peace she never thought possible. One afternoon, a young girl walked into the salon holding a flyer from the NGO. She said she wanted to become a hairstylist, but also help girls who were struggling like her. Amarachi watched her speak with quiet conviction. That same spark she once had, but wiser. She realized then that this was what healing looked like. Not fame, not luxury, but creating space for others to survive, speak, and rise. As she handed the girl a comb and smiled, Amarachi knew she'd finally come home to herself. Years later, people still whispered about Amarachi, some with pity, some with respect. But most had moved on. The internet had found new scandals, new soft life queens, new viral clips to dissect. Amarachi never returned to social media, never posted glow-up pictures or motivational quotes. She didn't need to. Her life was no longer curated for likes. It was lived. Quietly, fully, honestly. And that was enough. She now ran her own small salon in Yaba. Nothing fancy, just clean chairs, warm conversations, and a back room where she kept extra bundles for girls who couldn't afford them. When one of her apprentices asked her where she learned to braid so well, Amarachi only smiled. She didn't need to tell them the full story. It lived in her silence. In the way she walked, in the way she listened, and in the warning her life had become. Moral story. Every glittering photo hides a truth you may not survive. Some soft lives are built on pain no money can clean. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to hit the like button, comment your favorite part, and subscribe for more amazing stories. Your support helps us keep bringing you new adventures every week. Thanks for watching.